Alrighty, guys, and welcome back to the NBL Show presented by Fox Sport. I am your host, Josh Higgins, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Jai Shadlow. Jai, mate, how are you?
Doing well, mate. Doing very well. Coming off a very short week, and we're on the verge of an 8-game round. So keen to get stuck into some conversations, which some concerning players, teams, and some good teams to highlight heading into this Ignite debut round. So keen to get stuck into it.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting. But off the top, I want to get your thoughts on the NBA, NBL experience that you were lucky enough to attend over the weekend as well. It looked like a whole lot of fun, mate, and obviously some incredible basketball players who we saw from an NBA perspective and a couple of really good games we saw as well. So what was your kind of thoughts of, I guess, the whole experience and sort of would you like to see it again in Melbourne?
Yeah, so I went to the fan night. Not the fan night, sorry. I went to the training session on the Thursday night and then the game on the Friday night. Pretty cool, very cool experience. It's weird seeing like NBA players on the court, on Melbourne soil, on Australian soil. I did feel a bit out of touch. Like I've told people this, where it's like everyone was fanboying over Zion and stuff, and I was too. Like he's a specimen. He's huge, but like I don't know if a lot of people know him, but like Greg Monroe. I was obsessed with back in the day, early 2003s when he was with Detroit and stuff. And he's just walking around in a hoodie and trackies, and I was just like, that is the guy I want to like hang out with. Like he's the one that's making me fangirl. But other than that, it's really good. Awesome for the NBL to actually pull it off and Zion and everyone to play and come down. It looked like an awesome experience. I'm hoping all this will lead to more people watching the NBL and just to showcase the talent we have in the league.
Yeah, I think you bang on with that last point there as well. I think it was such an important milestone for the NBL because I have a lot of people at work with my full-time job at the moment as well who just couldn't stop talking about like, oh, did you see that the NBA was in Australia? Like they were playing against this Melbourne team, like yeah, Melbourne United and South East One Phoenix. Right now, let's take the talk now from the NBA into the NBL, and I think that's sort of what the NBL was trying to achieve, and that was the most exciting part of the weekend as well. Was seeing NBL teams against the NBA teams is always exciting. But to see it on home soil was just even more exciting as well. So, yeah, I couldn't be more stoked. I think the NBL, massive kudos to them as well. They did an incredible job with the whole experience. Pretty much a full week of just, fan events and the games and everything as well. Like, I just think everything was done really, really professionally. And, that's the sort of caliber of, I guess, events that the NBL is starting to launch now with, where they're sitting now is the second best league in Zion Williams' opinion as well. So that's obviously made headways around the world as well. But let's get into today's episode as normal, where we're jumping into a round 3 recap and wrap up of what was a pretty incredible but short NBL round. Then we've got a couple of injury newses to go through. Then we've got a fast break trivia question from Jai. And then we're going to jump into round 4 because round 4 with 8 games is going to be a very, very busy game. And then we have a couple of fan questions from round number 3, and we'll wrap up the episode with our tips and predictions. Now, Jai, let's spend a little bit of time here on the round number 3 wrap up, and we're going to spend a little bit of time purely based on the fact that there was only a small amount of games played. Now, we're going to go through the results quickly as we can with only 4 games. The Cairns Taipans lost to the Adelaide 36ers 110-79. The Perth Wildcats lost to the Illawarra Hawks they won against the Illawarra Hawks 92-84. The Sydney Kings defeated the New Zealand Breakers 97-75. And the last game of the round was an absolute thriller with the Tasmania Jack Jumpers just knocking off the Brisbane Bullets by 2 points. Now, I'm going to kick it off here, Jai, and I think we'll sort of go with one game on the Thursday night and then one game on the Saturday night in the recap, because the first game and on both nights were dead set blowouts and they weren't really important games. I think we sort of could see that coming from somewhat of a mile away. I think we saw Adelaide was going to annihilate Cairns, and I think we all saw that the Sydney Kings were going to kill the New Zealand Breakers after that disappointing loss. But let's start with the Perth game, because I was there live, and watching it live, it was a very interesting game. We saw the run early on from the Illawarra Hawks, 20-10 in the opening quarter. And then it just felt like with 2 minutes to go in that second quarter, the Perth Wildcats, for whatever reason, just found a way to get it going. And it was that full court press, which essentially got the game going and swung the momentum in their favor. And from there, they did a really, really good job. But one thing that was a concern for me was the JaVale McGee matchup. Now, he still dominated and had an incredible game, but they looked better when Christian Doolittle was on JaVale McGee, not Joe Lawala-Shaw. And that surprised me a little bit. So, Jai, what did you make of this game, though? Because I know it was only an 8-point win to the Perth Wildcats, and still 8 points is a relatively good win in the NBL, but this really should have been a sort of 12 to 16-point win, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think there was a stage, I think midway through third quarter, where JLA, you could see he kind of switched on and goes, right, I know how I can beat JaVale here. And there was like 3 plays in a row where JLA would receive the ball at the 3-point line, and obviously he can stretch the floor, and JaVale knows that, but because JaVale drops so much, JLA was like, oh yeah, I'd fake it, and then he could have shot it if he wanted to, but as soon as he saw JaVale go 2 steps in front of him, he's like, I can go blow past this guy so quickly. And he did it 3 times in a row. I'm like, this. As soon as I saw it, I'm like, okay, JLA's figured it out. He's like, unlock the cheat code here. Like you said, McGee still had a really good game, dominated. Obviously went down a little bit with a niggle injury with his knee. On-court stuff with Boali as well, I saw. But Doolittle, again, 2 games in a row where he just switches on in the fourth quarter and like really just cements the game for the team. Mason Jones, still out on him. He was my number 1 import coming into the league. Only been 3 games. I think it's a confidence thing. And Jaquiri McLaughlin shooting 4 for 20 to start the season. Like, I don't want to harp on about this guy too much. Like, I don't think he'll be in the league much longer, but that's just my personal opinion. But a win's a win, gutsy win. Like, good on him.
Yeah. I want to touch on Doolittle because I obviously had that really incredible fourth quarter performance, and I guess that sort of late third quarter as well, where he got switched on to JaVale McGee. But that second quarter, where they went on that little run there to end the quarter, heading into halftime, up by 2 points, that was all sparked by him. The full court press, we saw the back-to-back 3-point shots for him, and they were absolutely huge. Like, the momentum just shifted in a matter of seconds. Like, the crowd was quite dead to start the game. And you understand that because obviously home team, the Red Army are quite, emotional supporters. But seeing those couple of shots go down, the stadium erupted. And I think people forget as well, in this particular game, it was the open air game. And historically, those scoring outputs have been quite horrible. We know whether it's the Melbourne games or it's the Perth games, they've been quite poor. So, 92 to 84, albeit it's a pretty good score for one of those open air games as well. So I thought it was a really good performance by the Perth Wildcats. You bang on about Mason Jones. The thing, though, is I think he changed my mind slightly. I saw moments and flashes where this guy is going to be a relatively good NBL player. There's still a long way to go in his development, and I just want to give a quick little shout out as well to Jaron Riley of the Perth Wildcats. That kid is a dead set baller. I don't care what anyone says. Watching him live, the way he pushes the tempo, gets those rebounds, outlet pass, Dylan Windler, Christian Doolittle, those boys are loving playing with him as well. So I think it's crazy to say, but I think he needs to get the start in the next game coming up for the Perth Wildcats as well. So really impressive win by the Wildcats. And the second game on Saturday was somewhat of a controversial game. The Tasmania Jack Jumpers and the Brisbane Bullets. Both teams had injuries. For the Brisbane Bullets, we'll touch on them a little bit later in terms of when they may be coming back. But obviously, Casey Prather, Javon Freeman-Liberty, Sam McDaniel, all 3 of those boys out. Already paired with Mitch Norton as well. Really disappointing injuries for them. But the Tasmania Jack Jumpers as well. Obviously, David Johnson is out with the lower leg injury, which has just been confirmed, I believe, as a calf injury. And then obviously Deng as well, who's been out for a couple of weeks and will be out, with a couple of weeks with his hamstring. So, Jai, I'll let you take the floor on this one, mate. 84-82, Tasmania Jack Jumpers walk away with a 2-point win. What were your thoughts?
I watched this game. I was very frustrated with it because I thought Brisbane actually deserved to win this. I think it's a bit rough that they had to not only go on without Sam McDaniel, Javon, and then obviously no Mitch Norton. The fact they only lost by 2 points is really good, but the fact that they had to go up against Tassie, who just got an import landed 2 days prior, in TJ Starks, is ridiculous because that's just... It's just not. It's a bit unfair. Like, that's just part of the game and stuff. And he looks really good. So obviously everyone's aware of the charging in the late 2 minutes. Thought it was very, very unfair for the rest to call the charge, call the flop warning and stuff on Toei when Bannon he did charge him. Like, he extended his elbow. And Toei's a big dude. He weighs like 120 kilos. Went flying. And then a minute later to do that with Tyrell and Magnay, like, it's just not consistent. That's the common theme. It's not consistent. It's a bit unfair. Like, if you're going to do it one way, do it the other way, because they'll pretty much mirror for mirror. Like, it's ridiculous. But I thought Brisbane, considering the injuries and the amount of backlash, and I've given Stu Lash backlash, that they stepped up this game. I thought they were really good. Like Tane Murray, career night, 17 points, and then you had Alex Dukas, who looked really good as well. Jalen had to step up as well, got 19 points. And just all their like DPs and bench guys just really stepped up. And like, look, you want to credit that to Stu Lash, yeah, so he's a coach. If we're going to discredit him for their losses, got to give him credit for this stuff. So I thought they did really well. Tasmania are a very good team. Josh Bannon, clearly, I felt like when I watched him, like, he's got a bit of bad blood with Brisbane. I don't know the vibe I got. He's just like, he really wanted to prove him, like, this is what I can be. And he did it by getting a massive double-double. But yeah, I thought Brisbane were hard done by, but yeah, it was what it is.
Yeah, I think I want to dive into that Josh Bannon point a little bit. And it was a comment that still sticks in my mind. If you followed me at the Basel Fix for a number of years, you know I love Josh the Banana Man Bannon, and I have for a number of years. But there was a comment last season from Derek Rucker, and like, we know how close Derek Rucker is with the Brisbane Bullets camp, particularly over the last couple of seasons. I'm not sure if that is as close as it is over this season, because he has been somewhat critical of the team, whatever the case is. But I remember him saying that Josh Bannon is a 7 or 8 man on your lineup. So like, I don't know if that was his opinion or if that was what he was hearing from Brisbane and sort of using it as, this is what the goal is. So I don't know, maybe that's the motivation that we're sort of looking at here, where he had 23 points and 15 rebounds, I think it was, in that particular game, and was just absolutely dominant across the board. I don't know if that was the case, but again, just one little thing to flag in the back of your mind. But yeah, you're bang on. And I think what was even more important and crucial in this particular game was not allowing Tyrell Harrison to get going. I think he had like 7 points and 10 rebounds or something close to that as well, and had him in foul trouble quite early, and he just wasn't able to get going on the offensive or the defensive end, because it felt like when he got going on the offensive end, he drew 2 quick charge fouls. There was one in the third quarter, which was very suspect. I think the one in the fourth quarter was there a little bit more, but the one in the third quarter was not there at all. It was a very soft call on Will Magnay, who genuinely flopped. And, you can go back and forth on some of these decisions that the referees made. There was a flop called down one end. There wasn't a flop called down the other end. There was a charge foul that was called one end, not down the other end. There was a couple of questionable hand fouls towards the back end of the game. There was just not consistency. And that's what Stu Lash flagged in the post-press game conference. He sort of said, along the lines basically of, we just want clear communication and consistency, and that wasn't there tonight. And he was quite disappointed in that as well. So yeah, his press conference was a bit heated. I was lucky enough to be in that one, had a few questions with him, and you could just kind of see that the frustration that is brewing with him, not only with obviously the loss, but also with all the behind him noise as well, with people questioning his job and his credentials as well, which I can understand, and we won't go too much into that. We've spoken enough about Stu Lash over the last couple of weeks. But Jai, let's jump into some of the injuries, because speaking of the Brisbane Bullets, we just mentioned it off the top. Obviously, they've got Javon Freeman-Liberty, they've got Sam McDaniel, and they've got Mitch Norton. And those guys are going to see mixed sort of timelines. So it seems like Javon Freeman-Liberty will be back for this game against the Cairns Taipans. Who they play this week? I think they're playing... They've got a couple of games, I do believe. We'll figure that out when we get a little bit later on down the track with the tips and predictions. But it looks like he'll be back for this particular game. But obviously, Sam McDaniel ruled out, Mitch Norton ruled out. And do you believe that Casey Prather will be back as well?
I don't think Casey Prather will come back. If it's like a genuine concussion from training, like, we actually haven't heard much, but if it's actually a concussion, I reckon we'll put him on ice for this week, and then he'll play next week. But Javon, he was apparently going to play last week, but he just didn't pass the fitness test. So you'd expect a bit of week off, and I think they're playing Illawarra first up this week. So I think he'd be good to go for that.
Yeah, perfect. That's going to be an exciting thing, obviously, for the Brisbane Bullets. Hopefully they get some sort of reinforcements back, and hopefully we see Casey Prather on the court soon for them. But, Jai, let's go through the rest of these injuries, though, mate. The floor is yours. Obviously, a couple of injuries that are starting to potentially pile up for Melbourne United after the NBL NBA games, but they're looking like they're going to see the return of one of their superstars.
Yeah, so Shea Illy, obviously, during the NBA game, when Pelicans pulled up his hamstring, so They just confirmed a couple of hours ago that he'll be out for 4 to 5 weeks, which sucks because not say it's not an unnecessary injury, but like it was an exhibition game against an NBA team. So they're 3-0. Like you want to keep that trend going and stuff. That's good form you're going in with. And you take they're going up against Sydney as well, which is a big one. Goulding will be back, which sucks for Cairns Taipans. So he'll be back on Sunday against them. So that's going to be fun for them. Magic Deng, as you mentioned earlier, he's out for, I think he's week by week still. So he actually might return this week based on Ross' recent comments. David Johnson, we know him. Will Hickey's a big one. Has yet to play this season. Got the eye injury. Nothing's updated with him. I think he's still week by week. So we'll have to see. I'm not sure. I've got to find out if he's been training this week. But other than that, no real major injuries going on at the moment. So we can be thankful that the rest of the players in the league will be suiting up for the big round that is round 4.
Tyson Walker, though, is he a guy? I know he had was it a hand complaint?
He's fine, apparently.
Okay, perfect.
Apparently, he just like jarred his hand or something. And
yeah, perfect. No, that's okay, because I did hear some talk that, the scans or whatever they had afterwards sort of ruled out serious injury, but I wasn't too sure as to if he was going to miss some time this round. But that is the injury report for heading into round number 4 and after round number 3 as well. So a couple of big names on that list. Obviously, Shea Ili in particular, massive name. Will Hickey still on there. Javon Freeman-Liberty, Casey Prather, those couple of guys there, really big names as well. So it's disappointing for the league. But again, you mentioned Tassie there. We didn't speak about him too much, but TJ Starks, that was an incredible performance. 18 points. He took over late in the game as well. I'm not too sure how that combination, though, with him and Bryce Hamilton's going to work, but we'll leave that for another episode. I think it's going to be very interesting, to say the least. But, Jai, a little bit of a new segment in today's show. We've got Fast Break Trivia. You've got a question down here, and I've absolutely been trying to figure this one out in the pre-show, but we're going to go with it live. So, Jai, what's the question that myself and the viewers at home have to figure out?
Yeah, so this one is an interesting one because I found this stuff the other day and I was pretty shocked by it. So the question is, what is PJC, Parker Jackson Cartwright, what is he shooting from the perimeter this season? So that will be the 3-point line for those at home.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. So you've got written down here the 3 options. You've got 28.9.
Oh, yeah, it would actually help. It's actually a multiple choice, so it would be helpful if you read them out. So
28.9%.
PJC, 29.9%. It's either 28.9%, 18.2%, or 12.5%.
Yeah, this is an interesting one because I think there was an article I wrote a few weeks ago about his 3-point percentage, and I believe he was 1 of 8 in that particular game. I'm leaning towards the 12.5 and 18.2.
He's a 32% career shooter.
Okay, so he's probably not going to be sitting around the 28.9% then if he's a 32%er and we're bringing this up as a question. I'm going to go with the 18.2%. I think 12.5% just seems way too low, and I wouldn't put it past him, but 28.9% seems a little bit too high. So 18.2%, Jai.
That is incorrect. He is shooting 12.5% this season. He has attempted 16 shots and he's made 2.
Wow. That's mind-boggling.
Yeah, it's not good.
And I guess that kind of attributes to sort of, we'll speak about them in a second, but the New Zealand Breakers and their play style and sort of running everything through Parker Jackson Cartwright. He's had no help to start the season, and that's sort of been a bit of a recurring topic, especially in those post-game press conferences with Petteri Koppinen, who has just been really talking about, and diving into the sort of, it's Parker and the rest of the team at the moment as well. So, yeah, that's a very interesting stat and a bit of a worrying one for the New Zealand Breakers. But Fast Break Trivia will be back either next episode or the episode after. But Jai, let's jump into the round 4 preview. 8 games, 8 incredible games as well. So many storylines when we are looking at this one as well. And I guess the first game of the round is the first Ignite Cup game. Now, you've put a couple of articles out on foxsport.com.au in the NBL section around the Ignite Cup. So can you give us a little bit of an insight into the Ignite Cup first and then dive into that first game? Because this is, I think, when there's a stacked amount of games, but this is the number 1 game that I would be wanting to watch in round number 1 between the Illawarra Hawks and the New Zealand Breakers, mate. So take it away.
Yeah, so I think now everyone knows the rules about Ignite Cup. If you don't, it's added 20 extra games for the season. Every team earns 0.5 or 8 points, I believe. 0.5 if you win the quarter. No, if you draw, it's 0.5, and then you win a point if you win each quarter, win the game. you get 3 points essentially. So $400,000 on the line. So you do think teams are going to have some incentive to try hard because players want that money. It's a big wad of cash. And I think no better game to start than with Breakers and Illawarra Hawks, two winless teams entering the round. Hawks 0-2, Breakers 0-4. I think this is going to be like, if you want to talk about who we think is going to win, I think Hawks are going to get their first win. And I'm genuinely scared of what JaVale is going to do against this lineup because Rob Lowe and Sam Mennenga cannot stop this guy who's just coming off a game against JLA and he's still poured in 28 points and 14 rebounds or something. JaVale's averaging 29-13 with 2 blocks so far this season. Breakers are very undersized, so I'm quite concerned he actually might do like a 35-15 game.
That is going to be, it's going to be. I'm just thinking about that now. I don't know. No, it's not, and I'm genuinely concerned a little bit for the New Zealand Breakers as well. I've got an article coming out. We've got an article at Fox Sport coming out. I believe it should be out the day of, so it should be out today and right now. Between this particular game, I've got some comments from Tyler Harvey, some comments from Sam Mennenga and Coach Petteri Koppinen as well. And I am genuinely concerned for the New Zealand Breakers if they do lose this game. I know we've been speaking about it, and Coach Pett, has been really down in the dumps the last few weeks, and it's been quite concerning as well for a number of reasons. It just looks like now he's just got to get this win and try to get the season going, or basically if they keep losing, just get out of the job, find another spot and continue coaching career elsewhere around the world. But I'm genuinely scared for the New Zealand Breakers. JaVale McGee is just a genuine superstar. I think, we kind of spoke about it. We're like, I think it was the first episode, or it might have been off air, whatever the case was, but we were talking about how good is this guy going to be? And we had our questions and our queries, but he has far exceeded my expectations of what I thought we were going to see. I thought we were going to see, rough sort of Montrezl Harrell numbers, but he is better than advertised. He is better than what Montrezl Harrell was last season. He's so athletic. I didn't think we'd be seeing him pushing 30 minutes per game. He's going to play 30 minutes per game, if he's fit and able to, 100%. So he's just been so dominant, and it's been so exciting to see. And I think this is going to be a surefire win for the Illawarra Hawks in Spark Arena as well. It kicks the Breakers to 0-5, and then the Hawks go to 1-2 with a game, I believe, later on in the round. Early next round, I think they do. Oh, no, they got the Brisbane Bullets. So potentially they could come out of this round 2-2. So that's going to be exciting, obviously, for them. Now, I think the other key matchup of this particular round as well is also an Ignite Cup game. And it's the Sydney Kings taking on Melbourne United. And this game excites me for a number of reasons. Obviously, we've got the Matthew Dellavedova game against his former squad. Now, there's no animosity there. There's no hatred. There's no nothing. It's a very respectful sort of breakup, if you want to call it that as well. But that's still going to be exciting, seeing him play against his old team. But the biggest storyline for me, though, is Kendric Davis on a new club, obviously playing against Melbourne United, a team, obviously, who had a couple of problems with last season as well, both on and off the court, essentially. So that's going to be a key matchup for me. And I want to get your thoughts on Kendric Davis, Jai, because this season there's been a genuine shift in his play style. I think he's gone from a scoring facilitator to just a through-and-through scorer this season. So he's averaging 24 points per game. He's averaging that on 22 field goal attempts per game. Again, bear in mind, they've only played 2 games, but he's only averaging 3 assists this season. So we knew that Matthew Dellavedova and him, there was going to be some sort of a shift in, the dynamic and obviously Kendric Davis play style. But do you think that the Sydney Kings have adjusted his game style to a more NBA suited style to get him over there? Or are they just playing to the strengths of Matthew Dellavedova is our primary ball handler and he is our facilitator, and Kendric Davis, we want you to be that 25 point per game scorer?
Yeah, I think the latter. I think that's what they should be going down because, KD is a very good scorer and he's got is quite rare combo where he's like, you can tell him to switch it on and score 25 points, or you'd be like, look, your shots aren't making, you're not hitting your shots tonight. Can we switch it up and you become the facilitator and get your 6-7 assists a game? I mean, good luck telling him that because he's probably got a bit of an ego under that. So, but he's doing good this season, considering he's averaging nearly 25 points a game, but the 3 assists is down. It's only been 2 games, but he led the league last season, 8 assists a game. that's the concerning part. But it's only been 2 games. Let's give him some time to gel it out and stuff. He takes on United for the 4th time. I think this will be his 4th time playing him. This will be his first time without Shaylee. So that's something you should look out for, because without Shaylee, he might actually pop off a little bit. Daly's obviously first time going up against his former club. He's coming off a game where he scored 0 points, which is the 2nd time in his career where he scored 0 points. I think it was like 0 for 6 as well. And he's averaging 5 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists. So like, if he can bump up his points a bit to like 10, 11-ish, keep those assist numbers are good. Sydney looked pretty good. But for KD, I think it's going to be a big game. And without Illy, I think Sydney are a slight chance to win this game, despite United's hot form. I just think he could go for 30 plus here.
Yeah, I'm going to lock and load on the Sydney Kings. Like, I think that's as sure as it's hard saying a game is a lock, and I don't want to rule off Melbourne United, but like losing Shea Ili is such an important part of it. Still not having Chris Goulding. There's so much pressure now on, Milton Doyle, Jesse Edwards, those type of guys. And then obviously Tyson Walker, who could be playing with a sore hand. And then obviously the depth is it's very solid. Fabs, obviously, Dash Daniels is incredible. Tommy Wilson, Tanner Krebs, those type of guys are very solid players. But you're now asking them to be, the 4, 5, 6, 7 guys instead of most likely the sort of 6, 7, 8, 9 guys in your team as well. So again, there's going to be a few questions for them. But I think this is going to be an incredible game. And both those games, though, what an incredible way to kick off the Ignite Cup. There's been so much talk about it, intrigue about it. People are talking it down. People are talking it up. It's kind of all over the place right now, but nonetheless, it's going to be an exciting matchup. Now, I guess another big game in this particular round, we're going to be seeing the Adelaide 36ers twice. And we're going to be seeing them first against the Tasmania Jack Jumpers and then secondly against the Sydney Kings. Now, that Tasmania Jack Jumpers game, that is the one that intrigues me the most right now. Scott Roth historically has done very well with limiting Bryce Cotton. Not stopping Bryce Cotton, but limiting him as well. Who do you think goes to him? Because this is the interesting part for me. Like, you've obviously got Tiger Campbell, you've got Bryce Hamilton, you've got TJ Starks now, who's just come into the lineup. Nick Marshall became quite a defensive runner. It felt like against Tane Murray in that game against the Brisbane Bullets as well. I don't think he can handle Bryce Cotton. But who would you throw at Bryce, and how are you going to limit his impact? Because he's averaging 33 points a game to start the season.
Crazy. He's insane. Interesting. Like, I think Tiger Campbell has that aggressiveness and agility to nearly match him a little bit. So I think Tiger Campbell will be a rotation between Tiger Campbell and then Ben Air will come on, and because Ben Air, we know what Ben Air is like. He's a freaking pest. And then he'll take the responsibility. But man, I don't know. When I watched Cotton during Cairns and when I saw like Mallet Mag on Cotton, I was like, oh my God, this is not good. And he flew past him so many times, dude. I'm like, Cotton, he just looks better every season. I don't know what he's doing to his body, but he just looks so fit. So yeah, it'll be Tiger Campbell, like Scott Ross, a smart dude. Ben Air will provide that spark. Like, you can't stop him. Just if he scores 20 points, sweet, it's a win. Like, you'll take it.
Do you think, though, that they could potentially stick a Bryce Hamilton on him? Like, I think, though, he's been a relatively solid defender this season, and, let them match up on both ends of the basketball. I don't think, obviously, Bryce will match up with him on the defensive end. I think that matchup will be switched with, like, a Flynn Cameron, for example. But I would love to see a bigger body on Bryce. We know how quick Bryce is, but if you're playing some sort of a zone defense, there's enough bodies around if he does get past you to collapse pretty quickly on him. But I don't know. I think maybe Bryce is a guy you look at him as well. But again, Scott Roth is one of the smartest guys in the NBL. He'll have a plan for him as well. I think this is a bit of a danger game for the Adelaide 36ers. I know they are massive favourites in this particular one. We understand why. A couple of injuries to the Tasmania Jack Jumpers, the Adelaide 36ers, relatively unscathed. But the Jackies are 3-1 this season. And their only losses to the undefeated Melbourne United, and that was only to 4 points as well. So they've been a very solid team this season. Now, the other game, though, like we mentioned with the Adelaide 36ers, and we won't go too much into it because we've spoken about both these teams already, but I want to get into the rivalry of it all. Adelaide 36ers taking on the Sydney Kings in Adelaide. Now, this is a massive game. We're thinking that it's going to be exciting seeing Bryce in Perth, and that's going to be the biggest storyline of the season. But if there was a close second, it is going to be the Adelaide 36ers taking on the Sydney Kings in Adelaide. I would have loved to have seen Montrezl Harrell in this one because it would have been absolute fireworks. But Jai, mate, what are you expecting out of this clash? Because there's been some sour words from Kendric Davis and obviously that towards the Adelaide 36ers.
I'm going to predict this now. I think Kendrick gets kicked out. I reckon he gets ejected. I have a feeling because he's got that ego, and I don't want to get ego. Like I'm not trying to insult him, but I'm saying he's got that personality, competitive edge. Yeah, and he knows through his eyes, Adelaide have done him dirty. He wants revenge, and I think that is going to cloud his judgment. And if the game gets to a point where they find themselves down 15 points because Cotton's just unleashed, I think he's just going to start doing some stupid stuff, barking a lot, and it's going to get out of hand. So that's probably my big call. I reckon KD will get ejected, or he can get at least a tech, but I think he's going to get heated. But it is a shame that Trez is not there because that would have been, I don't want to say a fist fight, but
it could have been.
It could have been, but I think it's just going to be a very heated match. But I think Adelaide will get the win in this game.
What I'm excited about, though, is seeing Bryce and Kendric going against each other once again, though, because if we saw it last season, those two guys respect each other like hell. Obviously Kendric is the young blood. He absolutely loves everything BC has done throughout his entire career, but there's going to be some animosity. Bryce is going to feel the occasion. This is now his club, his franchise. You're disrespecting it. You've been talking all this trash. Now it's my time to put a foot in it and kick your ass in your return game or your coming home game back to Adelaide and just absolutely wipe the floor with you. Kendric, you were last season. I am this season. So I am darn excited for that game. October the 11th, 8 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. That got me caught up today as well. So everything's back to daylight time for all the Western Standarders over here as well. Now, I guess a couple of other big games. Obviously, the Cairns Taipans taking on the Perth Wildcats. We've got the Illawarra Hawks on the Brisbane Bullets. The last game that we want to talk about in a little
bit. Just rewind for a second.
Yep.
That Cairns Perth game, I am super excited to see Admiral Schofield go up against Christian Doolittle because I think they're both the scariest dudes in the league. And they both have that death stare where they're just like, when something's going down, they just I don't know if you saw Admiral Schofield when they played Sydney, how he went to bull call. And was just like, we all good. But he said it in a way just like, bull call looked like he shattered, so I'll shit myself watching the TV. But I think that I'm so keen to watch that to see. I hope something happens where they just lock in, just watch each other. It's going to be a cool moment.
Mate, that is actually a sensational call because they're kind of like the quiet guy. Like, do you know that person you kind of like, oh, he's a quiet, mysterious dude, and someone's like, oh, yeah, he's a black belt, or he's a there's something about him, and you're like, oh, all right, I'll leave him over there in the corner by himself. But those guys have both got that really nice personality, but once they hit that white line and go over it, that white line fever just hits them, and they're just like competitive dogs, and they love the bang plays as well. So that's actually a very, very good shout. Up there in Cairns as well, that will probably be a pretty good game. Cairns will be eager to bounce back after the 2-0 weekend last weekend, and the Perth Wildcats will be looking to make it 3 on the trot as well. So that will be a very good game. But the last game that I want to speak about quickly, Jai, is the New Zealand Breakers taking on South East Melbourne Phoenix. Now, this is at Spark Arena. This could be the Breakers' first game and first win of the season. Obviously, we're talking, trying to hype them up a little bit here as well. But I think this is their best chance for a couple of weeks now to get their first win. South East Melbourne Phoenix have looked very up and down to start the season. I know we saw them play against the NBA team, but you can see the class of Melbourne United compared to South East Melbourne Phoenix in that particular game as well. I know it's an unfair thing to judge on, but I'm just not as stoked with how the South East Melbourne Phoenix have started the season. But what do you reckon of this game, mate? Spark Arena, I believe the Breakers have got 3 games in a row now at Spark Arena. That includes the first game of the round, this game, and next round's game as well. So, I don't know. I'm just smelling a little bit of an upset here with the New Zealand Breakers most likely getting their first win of the season.
I am not going to agree with you on this one. I think the Breakers are destined for an 0-6 start to the season, and I love Pedro Coppinen, but I think and I've said this multiple times, and I won't, flog a dead horse here, but I think Joe Flavel is looking over his shoulder and he's going to take over soon. So I'm just concerned with that. But as for the match, I wrote down that it's been since that game where John Brown had the 6 steals. That was nearly 3 weeks ago, and it feels like an eternity. So now I'm actually keen to see him get back on the court, see Sam get the game going. Still waiting for their third import. No idea who it is yet, so sorry about that. But John Brown, I really want to see him continue to get in that Defensive Player of the Year. He's a massive candidate for that award. So New Zealand, I've written down stats here. New Zealand are second in allowing the most turnovers, and they are second in allowing teams steals. So they allow teams to get 9.5 steals a game. So that just tells me that John Brown is getting 400 steals this game, which is pretty cool. So I think they're going to win. I think this is where Adelaide will tie their career worst season from 2021, I think. And it'll be a big shake-up and stuff. But I just don't. Yeah, I can't see Sam losing this game, and I'll wear egg on my face if this happens. But I think Josh King will win the battle of coaches for this one.
Yeah, I just think it's, like I said, I think it's just their only chance now over the next couple of weeks to potentially knock a team off. Like, I haven't looked ahead too far, but I'm pretty sure their next couple of games are relatively strong opponents. I guess every opponent in the NBL is a very strong opponent, so that is unfair to, I guess, some other teams in the league. But I don't know, Sem coming off of the NBA experience, obviously having to travel over to New Zealand, there's a part of that obviously as well with the longer travel, longer layovers, time changes, everything like that as well. Whereas a New Zealand Breakers team hasn't had to travel, been in their own beds, same arena. I don't know. It's just brewing as a little bit of an upset for me as well. I think if they lose against the Illawarra Hawks, they'll be absolutely desperate to win that game against the South East Phoenix to get their first win of the season. So that is going to be an interesting one. And the round wraps up with Melbourne United taking on the Cairns Taipans. Now, Jai, mate, let's move into our fan questions as we do every single week. And obviously, we have some exciting questions. As always, 3 of the best. And thank you very much for everyone who sent in their questions of the round. So, Jai, the floor is over to you. These are guys off your X account. And like I mentioned last week as well, if you want to get involved, at NBL Pleb and at Basketball Fix. I need to change my handle still, but at Basketball Fix. So get involved, send us a few questions, and we'll go from there. But Jai, what are the couple of questions here that we've got to answer?
Yeah, so first one we'll go with is QWERTY. So he answered, this is his second one, so congratulations, QWERTY. He says, do you guys consider the officiating in the last quarter of the Brisbane and Tasmania game controversial?
Yeah, I think it is controversial. I think, and it's only because they've made controversial. It's because they've made the wrong calls. That's what it is. Because I don't necessarily think that they officiated poor throughout the whole game, but those last 2 minutes were very, very poor from the referees. And I didn't like hearing there was that younger guy, he probably early 30s, but the blonde guy, and I don't know his name. I don't know
the new American ref.
Yeah, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
He's an NBA G League referee. And I think that's the biggest problem because we saw in the NBL NBA games, the games are officiated so differently. It's such different officiating. It's more physical in the NBL compared to the NBA. Like we saw so many fouls in that first quarter against Melbourne United where they had to adjust because it felt like every time they touched someone, it was a foul. So I'm not sure if that's the right guy to bring over here. And he actually had some of those calls where it was a flop or it was just a physical play and it was very quick to the whistle. So, I think there was definitely some controversy to it. Again, did it cost the Brisbane Bullets the game? It definitely could have. It was a very close game down the stretch. But nonetheless, that's the officiating. It's just quite annoying, though, because this is probably the first season where I haven't criticised referees. And
I was literally just about to say that,
Yeah, like we're at the end of round 3 and I hadn't criticised them once.
Nope.
And then this has happened and then you kind of like, okay. And then it's like, oh, NBL officiating is back. No.
Yeah.
It's just one moment, you know what I mean? So, what are your thoughts? And I'm probably taking it all up here, but what are your thoughts?
I absolutely agree. I think it's recency bias with this stuff. Like we all just got that charge call, it's just a bad taste in our mouth. So like up until that, I was praising the refs. I thought they were doing a really good job allowing the physical play and everything. So I think we just kind of got to move on from this one. And hopefully this guy went back and had some chats with the other refs and said, look, learn from this mistake. Like that's all you can wish for. But if this continues on throughout the round, then you can start, throwing your hands up in the air a bit more. But one occasion, it does suck, and I reckon it did cost Brisbane the match. But it's just you can only do so much. These are all learning experiences. Like that's all we can ask for.
Definitely, mate. Now, the second question here is from Zach Pearson, and he's asked, with how well the league is going, could we potentially expand teams, could potential expansion teams come into the league in the next year or two? Too much great Australian and New Zealand talent overseas and in the league as NRP/IRP, so nominated replacement players or injury replacement players, which could be used for that team. So what are your thoughts on this, Jai? I think we may have some different opinions on this one.
Yeah, I actually think that based on today's decision that the Ignite Cup final will be at Gold Coast, that I think Gold Coast will be the first team to get the expansion. Just because I'm just following the breadcrumbs here, like they still continue to trademark Gold Coast Blaze. If people aren't aware that Gold Coast Blaze were a team between 2007 2012, played 5 seasons in the league. Then they were disbanded because they just didn't have the funds for it, similar to like the Indian Panthers in the New Zealand League recently. And you had Chris Goulding, Kadee and stuff playing there back in the day. And Gold Coast clearly, based on today's press conference and stuff, they're very hungry to get back in the league. So I don't know, I'm just getting a feeling that the Gold Coast will be the first team to join part of the expansion to reach 12 teams.
All right. I'm going to look at this from a bit of a different perspective. And I spoke to a former Brisbane Bullet import, Devondrick Walker, and he was a Southeast One Phoenix import a couple of years ago as well. And he kind of changed my opinion a little bit. And I was very like, okay, let's get as many teams in this league as possible. And let's run as many teams and build this league and grow over the next 5 to 10 years. And it's very interesting. But when you actually look at it, whilst there is a lot of talent around, there's probably not the top echelon of talent in Australian basketball to survive potentially another 2 or 3 teams. Because for me personally, I feel like if they're going to go and add more teams, I think we need to see 4 import spots added. I think that's a genuine must because we are going to dilute the talent a lot. Guys like, I don't know where we can kind of go, but like a lot of these DP players, for example, will become full rostered players. And some of these DP players are not up to scratch right now at NBL level, sorry. So you're looking at a guy who's the 12th, 13th, 14th man on an NBL bench, potentially now being an 8th, 9th, or 10th man. I just don't think that's really good for the whole product of the league. We have such a close season where, Damon Lowry, it was not mathematically possible, but he said, a team could finish on the bottom of the ladder with a positive win-loss record. That won't happen with a new team. I just don't think personally. So, there's a lot of great talent out there, 100%, but not all of them want to come back and play in Australia. Some of them use these overseas trips as a way to sort of explore the world and see what else is out there as well. So, as much as I want to see the league grow, I think there's a market where potentially they look to go to Asia first before they potentially look to expand too much in Australia. I think Gold Coast will get a team, Canberra will get a team, and once those 2 states get their teams, I think they may look worldwide, and that will be over the next sort of 10 years. That's sort of my prediction because then you got to hit the Asian market and then the money starts coming as well. So, I don't know, maybe a little bit of a Debbie Downer, but I just don't know if, it's the best thing for the league to expand relatively quickly. Now, the last question here, Jai, I'm going to throw this one over to you, mate. Mitchell Robinson has asked, Mitchell Robinson, that's a good name. Old former Brisbane Bullet and Brisbane Lion and Carlton Blues player back in the day. But the New Zealand Breakers have the worst bench in the NBL since when, Jai?
Well, he actually wrote another question and pretty much said like team as well. He added on, I didn't add that part. But I'm actually going to say the worst bench and team constructed since the NBL 23 or 4. Let me just have a look. Yeah, NBL 24 Southeast Melbourne Phoenix, because I think people have forgotten that season where Mitch Creek was injured early on. They brought in Tyler Cook, awesome player, only played 3 games. But then
this season. Yes,
this season. And then you had the players like, obviously, Owen Foxwell, Cody Statman was there, Craig Muller, Reece Vague, when they had Anzac Rosetto, Austin Rapp. But then they had players like, I don't know if a lot of people remember this, the import Will Cummings, who got dropped because apparently he wasn't attending certain meetings and part of the contract fan functions, players have to attend fan functions part of their contract, and he wasn't turning up to that. So they had to let him go, and now he's off in Galatasaray at the moment. And then obviously Big Sauce, we love Big Sauce here. But then they had Gary Brown as well, and we know that season. Do you remember him being suspended twice for punching, I'm pretty sure.
Yep. And they had a few hamstring injuries to end the season as well. And
it was just a disastrous season to the point where I think they got one. Was it last season? I'm not sure. No, yeah, it was that season where they got one win over Sydney, and it was like the grand final win for them, but pretty much. But looking at their roster, it is pretty grotesque outside of like Creek and Alan Williams. So, that's going to be my recent one. That is probably the worst team constructed.
Yeah, it's a very interesting one for sure. I nearly think you could say back to New Zealand's bad season could be the last poor team constructed as well. They went 5 of 23. So, the Breakers are sort of chasing their own history in a sense here as well. So, 5 and 23, again, we've got an extra 5 games this season. So if they go anywhere close to 25 wins in a 33-game season, it's just not good history to be on that side of as well, mate. Wow. So we'll leave that one there anyways. But again, thank you very much for all your questions. Again, we'll be doing these every single week. We love interacting with everyone as well. And again, no more QT questions heading into the next round. So everyone else, get your questions in and get your
no more
opinions heard. We'll reward him as much as we can. He's a good lad. Now,
we love you,
Yeah, we do. Now, let's get into the last part of the episode, our tips and predictions heading into round number 4. And obviously, both of us went 4-4 last week. Like we said, very easy round to tip. You went all the big names, the big dogs, and they all came away with big wins as well. This week, though, we have gone pretty similar across the board. I'm just going to get the games up here. So the Illawarra Hawks take on the New Zealand Breakers. We have both picked the Illawarra Hawks. The Sydney Kings taking on Melbourne United. We have both picked the Sydney Kings. Adelaide 36ers are taking on the Tasmania Jack Jumpers. We've both gone with Adelaide. The 4th game of the round is the Perth Wildcats taking on the Cairns Taipans. We've both gone for Perth. The 5th game of the round is our first change-up. We've gone the Illawarra Hawks taking on the New Zealand Breakers. I've picked Brisbane purely based on I potentially think that Javon Freeman-Liberty will be back. I think Casey Prather will be back. And I think that's enough to get them over the line against the Illawarra Hawks. I think Tyrell Harrison is probably one of the only bigs in the league who can match it size for size and athleticism-wise with JaVale McGee. So that's why I've gone with them. So there is our first little change-up of the round. Then the next game, we have a change-up as well. The Sydney Kings taking on the Adelaide 36ers. I've gone with the Sydney Kings. You've gone with the Adelaide 36ers. And then the next game, we've decided to go a little bit different as well. I'm following the New Zealand Breakers over the South East Melbourne Phoenix. You have picked the South East Melbourne Phoenix. And the last game of the round between the Cairns Taipans and Melbourne United. We have both picked Melbourne. So, potentially, Jai, I could fall 3 or 4 tips behind you, or could walk away 2 tips ahead of you as well. And we will get players' tips and predictions posted up on our X tomorrow night as well. We'll get a quick player. I'll reach out to a few players tomorrow and continue on with their tips and predictions heading into round number 4. Jai, though, mate, an incredible episode. It's been a lot of fun. It's been a good episode. We sort of thought we'll cut a segment out, and actually, thank God we did, because we've still rolled over nearly at the 50-minute mark as well, mate. But once again, mate, hope you enjoyed another episode, and how do you think we're going?
Yeah, it's going good. I think I'm going to make another bold prediction here, which is going to piss off a lot of Cairns Taipans fans. So I ate so much shit when I said I think Cairns Taipans will start the season 0-6, and obviously they're now 2-2. I obviously am going to stick to my guns and be stubborn here. I think what we've seen recently by them is what's going to come to fruition for the rest of the season until they can get their shit in order. I don't know if everyone has realised their current next 5 games, but I think in the next 5 games, they're going 0-5. So they have Perth, Melbourne, Adelaide, then Perth, and then Melbourne. Based on what I've seen, the only 2 teams they've beaten are Brisbane and a Sydney Kings team, which is like first game of the season. It's always a bit, anything can happen. So to the Cairns Taipan supporters out there, if they do not go 0-5, if they win at least 1 game out of their next 5, I will do a dare on screen. I don't care what it is. I will suck eggs somehow, but whatever the dare is. But I think I'm that confident that Cairns are not going to win a game in their next 5. So I'm standing by this.
I'm gonna go with your idea. All right. Comment down below in the comment section what you want Jai to do if the Cairns Taipans are to win 1 of the next 5 games. They've only got to win 1. All right. I want to see something like the Derek Rucker from last season. I want to see someone, right? He's got to walk from bloody Melbourne to Perth whatever the case is, I want to see something. So the most liked comment down below will be what Jai has to do if the Cairns Taipans win one of their next 5 games. All right, that's going to be a very, very big one to watch, mate. And looking forward to seeing how that plays out, in particularly over the next 5 weeks. But that'll wrap up the what are we up to? 4th episode of the NBL show. Yeah. It's flying by. And if you want to check out, like I mentioned off the top as well, all of our articles, there's feature articles, there's exclusives, there's breaking news, there's your week-to-week sort of talking points and everything going on in the NBL at foxsport.com.au in the NBL section. Jai and I are absolutely busy, especially with the whole team there at Fox Sport as well. So a massive shout out to everyone there as well who are helping us find our feet to start our sort of journalism, professional journalism sort of pathways as well. But again, massive shout out to every single one who has jumped on the NBL show. Support has been massive. Numbers have been great, and we're looking forward to continually building this product. I'd imagine over the next couple of weeks, we will look to secure a bit of a third guest on this show as well. And sort of go down that pathway over the next couple of months. But until next time, this has been the NBL show presented by Fox Sport, and we hope you've enjoyed it.